So, what's the real key to unlocking a student's potential? It's not just about what we teach, but it's about how we inspire them to learn in the first place. Today, we're diving into the art of learning by exploring the science behind student motivation. We're going to look at some really practical insights, all drawn from the research of Dr. Sudhindra S.G., to help you, as a teacher, build a classroom where that drive to learn really thrives.
We've all been there, right? You've poured your heart and soul into a lesson plan, you're excited about it, and then you look out and you see that blank stare. It feels like you're competing for their attention against, well, everything else, and it can honestly feel like a losing battle. But here's the good news. It's not about fighting harder. It's about understanding what's really going on inside that engine of motivation. And once you get that, you can shift the whole vibe of your classroom from just compliance to genuine curiosity.
So how do we actually make that shift? Well, Dr. Sudhindra S.G.'s research gives us this incredible framework to do just that. The goal here isn't some quick fix to get kids to turn in their homework. No, it's bigger than that. It's about building an environment that nurtures a real, self-sustaining desire to learn. To solve this motivation puzzle, we first have to understand the pieces. Every single action a student takes, whether it's eagerly raising their hand or just staring out the window, is powered by one of two basic forces. Getting the difference between them is absolutely the first, most critical step. Okay, so first up, you have intrinsic motivation. Think of this as that internal fire. This is the kid who reads an extra chapter just because they're curious, or the one who keeps messing with a science project long after the bell rings. On the other side of the coin, you have extrinsic motivation. That's the push from the outside. This is the student who's grinding for that A+, or to get a sticker, or maybe just to avoid losing recess. Both are powerful, for sure, but as we're about to see, they are not created equal. As teachers, our go-to is so often those extrinsic tools. The stickers, the extra credit, the pizza parties. They're easy and they seem to work, right? But what if I told you that this very strategy, our favorite one, can sometimes completely backfire and actually do more harm than good? Let's dive into a really fascinating, kind of counterintuitive idea. It's a phenomenon with a bit of a mouthful of a name, the overjustification effect. But the research on this is shockingly clear. When you start giving a reward for an activity that someone already enjoys, their internal reason for doing it gets hijacked and replaced by the external one. The reward basically turns what was once play into work. The source material uses this perfect analogy. Just imagine you absolutely love playing the piano. Then you go pro. You get paid for it. Suddenly, the very last thing you want to do when you get home is even look at a piano. That's the effect. The joy, that internal drive, gets totally crowded out by the pressure to perform for a paycheck. And if we're honest, we've all felt some version of this. So, if leaning too hard on rewards is a trap, what's the alternative? Well, the answer is to stop trying to add motivation from the outside and instead start unlocking the motivation that's already in there. The research points us to this powerful framework built on 3 intrinsic keys, which were really popularized by Daniel Pink's work in his book, Drive. These are the 3 core psychological needs that we all have: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. It all starts with autonomy, that feeling of having some control, some say in what we do. That choice then fuels the desire for mastery, that deep, satisfying feeling of getting better and better at something we care about. And what gives it all meaning? That's purpose, connecting all that hard work to something bigger than ourselves. When you build these into your teaching, you're not just motivating, you're empowering. Okay, theory's great, but what does this actually look like in a real classroom on, say, a Tuesday morning? Let's get super practical and talk about how to put this whole framework into practice. All right, first, a really important point. This whole thing isn't about getting rid of all external rewards. Extrinsic motivation is a tool, and it can be a really useful one. The real art of teaching, as Dr. Sudhindra's research points out, is knowing which tool to use for which job, and knowing when it's time to put those external rewards away so that the internal drive can take over. So here's the strategy in a nutshell. Use those extrinsic rewards, but use them tactically.
They are perfect for getting a student over the hump of a really boring or unpleasant task, like, I don't know, memorizing multiplication tables, or for giving them a little boost when they're starting a brand new skill and just feeling totally overwhelmed. But, and this is a big but, the moment you want to foster long-term passion, real creativity, deep understanding, you have to shift your focus to the intrinsic.
So how do you feel that intrinsic engine? Well, you build a classroom culture where you celebrate the process of learning, not just the final grade, that feed mastery. You give students meaningful choices in their assignments, like letting them decide how they want to present their research project. Boom, that provides autonomy. And you constantly connect what they're doing to the real world, showing them why this stuff actually matters, and that creates purpose. The whole conversation shifts from, what's my grade, to, hey, look what I can do now.
And that's really brings us to the heart of this whole explainer. Fostering motivation isn't about some huge, dramatic overhaul of your teaching style overnight. Nope, it's about small, intentional shifts. So I'll leave you with this question. What's one small change you can make tomorrow to give your students just a little more autonomy, or a clearer sense of mastery, or deeper feeling of purpose? It could be as simple as offering 2 project options instead of 1, or taking just 30 seconds to connect a math problem to a real-world job. That one small spark could be all it takes to ignite a student's lifelong love of learning.